My name is Quentin Ring. I am Beyond Baroque's Executive Director. We are here to celebrate the launch of Mahtem Shiferraw's new book, Nomenclatures of Invisibility. Yes, please give it up for Mahtem. We've got the book here. We're absolutely thrilled to be able to host this. We have a great lineup of readers. I think we're going to hear some killer poems, and so we're just really excited to have you all here. Before we get started, though, I did want to begin by recognizing Beyond Baroque's presence on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Tonga peoples. We acknowledge the wrong done to these peoples through settler colonialism, genocidal practices, and the violent dispossession of their land. And as an arts organization, we are committed to uplifting Indigenous writers, communities, their stories, and their art. For those of you who don't know, Beyond Baroque is Los Angeles' oldest literary institution. We are, in fact, turning 55 years old this year. And we're going to be celebrating, I know, remarkable, it's older than I am, so. We're going to be celebrating with a big gala in the fall on October 21st. Please keep your eye open for that. We're going to be sending out save the dates invitations soon. But over our history, we've built a community of poets, writers, and artists through our workshops, readings, performances, exhibitions, archiving. All of what we do is centered on our commitment to expanding the artistic possibilities of language, to supporting poets and writers and artists as they experiment with language, develop their craft, form artistic collaborations, and create community. We do that pretty much every week here. We have workshops. Wednesday night poetry workshop has been running continuously every Wednesday since 1969. We have a Monday night fiction workshop. We have special intensive workshops, once or twice a month. And we also have readings and performances here pretty much every weekend, usually Friday, Saturday, often Thursdays, often Sundays. We have art exhibitions, so we keep very busy. We do have a few programs coming up that I want to just flag for you next week. Next Friday, in fact, we're part of the Latina Writers Conference, and we'll be hosting the Revolutionary Women of Color, who will present Celebrating Women of Resilience, a photographic tribute to the activists. That features a great lineup, including Claudia D. Hernandez, several others. There'll be a little pop-up art exhibition, photography exhibition in here. So please come out for that on Friday. And then on Saturday, next Saturday, we're hosting Katie Ferris and Ilya Kaminsky, which should be a really fantastic reading as well. So please do come back for that. And then after that, we kind of shut down for August. So if you want to catch some poetry here, that will be your last chance for a month until we come back after Labor Day. But if you do want to support us, we really would appreciate it. It's very difficult to run an arts nonprofit in Los Angeles or anywhere in the United States, to be honest. So if you would consider becoming a member, it costs $60 as an individual membership, $80 as a dual membership. We have levels above that. It goes a long way towards helping us put on these programs, helps us renovate the space, and helps pay writers and artists. So we would appreciate it if you do that. If you would be interested, you can see Genesis in the bookstore. You can sign up online. But thank you to all of you who are members as well. And thank you to our staff also who's working on this program. Eric Alberg in the booth, Ivan Salinas, who coordinated it, Genesis Perez. They're wonderful. I think that's about it for the long speech. And so I'm just really excited about the readings. We're here to celebrate Mahtem and her new book. So I think we should just go ahead and get on with it. First up, we are welcoming Atina Hartunian, who is a first-generation Armenian Greek American born and raised in Los Angeles with roots in New York and occupied Armenia. Recently, she completed her MFA degree at Pacific University in Oregon, during which she delivered a talk titled Your Characters Are Horcruxes. Her academic achievement was recognized with the Masters of Fine Arts Merit Scholarship. Atina has been awarded residencies at prominent institutions like the Cambridge Writers Workshop in New Orleans. And she also holds the distinction of being a founding fellow of the Anafra Writing Program here in Los Angeles, which I believe Mahtem founded herself. Yeah. Presently, she serves as an assistant fiction editor for fiction at Northwest Review. Starting in October 2023, Atina will undertake the Anafra's inaugural teaching fellowship for cycles 2023 to 2024. Please, everyone, welcome Atina Hartunian.
Oh my God, is that me? It feels like a whole other person. I'm gonna do some some stuff right now. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to Mahtem and to all the other readers that will be gracing this stage. It's really an honor to read with you. I am not a poet. All my friends are poets. I am a fiction kid, and today I'm going to be reading an excerpt from an upcoming chapbook called Love at First Sip. I'm reading. All right. In a faraway land known as Queens, New York, there is a neighborhood called Astoria. This neighborhood has a little restaurant known as Neptune's Diner. This sturdy little diner sits its L-shaped self on the corner of Astoria and 31st Boulevard across from the N train platform. During the day, the diners serve up tuna melts and fries, freshly baked fruit pies, bacon and egg breakfast to the people of the neighborhood and those on their way to and from work. But this is no ordinary greasy spoon. After the dinner shift ends and the custodian scrubs the last toilet clean, when the manager turns off all the lights and locks the doors, a quietness softly blankets the diner in the dark. The lock clicks, and the stovetop begins groaning over how the cooks mistreat him. The oven starts with its creaky cries over how once her shiny silver self has now dimmed to a worn-out splotchy chrome. In the dining room, the radio turns the dials to the classical station to listen to the music she wants. The counter stretches its stiff bolts, and the booths relax their bulges from having to hold it in all day, and rumble with a sigh of relief. Even the cutlery arranged neatly on the napkins on the tables seem to slouch or droop with weariness. At the same time, the soda fountain, coffee maker, and tea stations huddle together to hiss and gossip about the customers of the day, squeezing the glassware, ceramic mugs, paper-to-go cups tightly between them, except for Cup. Cup stands bravely at the edge of the back bar. Apart from his family of disposables and forgotten by Craig, a waiter on the dinner shift who wanted some coffee before leaving. In the moonlight filtering through the slats of the window blinds, like a spotlight on a dark stage, Cup's compact frame gleams with blue and white meandering patterns. A white shield with the inscription, "We are happy to serve you," is inked in gold Athenian letters across his tiny chest, while two Grecian vessels adorn his sides. He's never been this close to the diner before, nor this far from the tower of paper cups where his family resides during these bewitching hours. Cup palpitates throughout the pulp of his paper lining. "Careful there, Cup, you don't want to fall," his mother calls to him with restrained panic. A sudden gust of wind or a jolt from the bar could send Cup tumbling to his doom, like his cousin Peter, who fell to the ground and was devoured by Rattus, the notorious one-eyed diner rat. But she's only ever seen the diner from the narrow space crammed between the coffee machine and the hot water dispenser. The moonlight slowly shifts across the diner, moves away from Cup, illuminating the condiments on the counter. "Hey, Cuppy," Ketchup calls out menacingly. "Ooh, look like someone is far from home," Mustard joins in. "Are you lost, little Cup?" Hot Sauce teases. Ketchup, mustard, and hot sauce. They think they're untouchable because they all sit in caddies on the counter. They call themselves the Caddy Crew. Yeah, jump, coward, jump. The sweetened loaves and the white sugar packets are their overly excited minions, but Cup stays firm and unshaken. From his spot, he can make out the curvy outline of the booths, the sharp silhouette of the cash register, and the round edge of the counter that turns at the shorter end of the diner. Cup wonders what the place might actually look like during the day. The diner's magic dies down at sunrise, sending all the appliances, from the pots and pans in the kitchen to the paper mats on the tables, back into a deep slumber. "We knew this day would come," his father boasts, to fulfill his destiny as our family motto dictates, to serve the customer, to protect the precious fluids we contain, as the great maker fashioned us so. But Cup's father likes to preach from the safety of their family tower. He's heard this all before. Sure, his siblings, cousins, aunts, uncles have done their duty, but to what end? Were they all created just for one purpose? To serve and then be cast away? The notion that the great maker crafted Cup and his kind for a single use has never sat right with him. The caddy crew gets bored and starts taunting the napkin dispenser next to them. The radio's mood swings and buzzes from classical music to 102.7, Love Song Dedication Hour. The soaring melody of Foreigner's soft rock ballad, I Wanna Know What Love Is, fills the dining room. The dessert display case at the end of the counter begins its lonely twirl, dancing by herself. The salt and pepper shakers cozy up. Even the forks cuddle up with the spoons as the song's lush harmonies flood the diner. Cup wants more than just a one-time encounter, to be thought of more than just a beverage container. He wants to be seen as something more useful, important. What he wants is something he can't quite pinpoint until the song crescendos into the chorus and the lyrics strike Cup like a bell. He wants to know what love is. He wants someone to show him. He wants to know what love is. And he knows down to his inked fibers that there's someone out there who can. The sensation rings throughout his concave body. The feeling is so strong, he feels like he can actually leap across the canyon between the bar back and the counter. All of a sudden, everyone hears the jingle jangle of keys in the back door. The moon has left, letting the dawn shine through. Everyone falls asleep abruptly and unexpectedly, like spilt milk. It takes a few minutes for Ersi to unlock the back door of the diner unlock the back door of the diner from the alley. She looks at the key under the light her brother Nicholas installed when he bought the diner some 30 years ago. The bare bulb is on a timer that turns on at 5 a.m. and lights a path for Ersi. The light isn't bright enough for her dimming vision, and she refuses to get glasses. After trying the key again, she unlocks the door to the kitchen and steps inside. The lights cast a greenish glow all over the appliances that stand ready like soldiers in a U formation with a prep island in the middle. Her knee starts to throb in pain when she enters the kitchen, blaming her weight instead of the arthritis in her joints. Like a sergeant, she inspects the barracks. Ersi scrutinizes the area looking for a pot out of place, or worse, rat droppings. In the past, they ran into some trouble with such vermin. That's when she adopted the white short-haired alley cat she named George. The relationship was simple. She provided the food and the cat kept the rats away. Ersi grew to love the cat and was deeply saddened when one day she found George lifeless, bloody, and with a fleshy orb impaled on one of its claws. There are no signs of dirty rodents today. Ersi's lips lift into a smile until she reaches the refrigerator with its strange rattling. Her short-lived smile drops back down to its sour and familiar corners. Alex, her nephew and night manager, said he would call someone to fix it. Ersi knows better than to expect her nephew to do an ounce more. She should be happy he doesn't burn the place down every night. Ersi rounds the island and wobbles with her stiff knee to the office just behind the back door. It's a tiny room, used as an employee locker and cleaning supply storage too. She keeps the door open to let the air circulate and goes straight to the desk. There's a package on top, mail from the day before, but no message or no note about the fridge. She puts the call to the handyman on her mental to-do list, along with asking Sally to take care of the package. After hanging her heavy coat and purse on the shared rack, she sorts through the bills and comes across some mail from Alex's bank. Foreclosure is stamped in bright red. Alexander. She knew he had money problems, but didn't realize it was this bad. She remembers Alex as a little boy doing math homework in this very room, his legs barely reaching the floor. She used to check in on him every hour or so, bringing him a plate of cut-up fruit to snack on while he worked. The door to the entrance clangs as someone knocks loudly. Oh, they're here. Ersi puts the mail down and leaves the office. She walks through the double doors, turns on the lights in the dining room, and opens the door to let in the waitstaff and the cooks waiting outside. Good morning, she says to everyone as they come in, trying to be friendly. Sally, there's a package in the office. Can you please take care of it? Sally nudges her glasses up the bridge of her nose. Oh, the coffee cups. She heads to the office. Meanwhile, Jose, the newly promoted waiter, lingers in the dining room. Need anything from me? He asks with an eagerness of a puppy. Ersi shakes her head no and closes the door once everyone is inside. Well, if you need anything, Jose taps a little tune on the counter before leaving Ersi to her managerial tasks. The register opens with a cheery ring, and Ersi counts the money left over from the evening shift. She pauses in mid-count, cash in both hands, and thinks about her brother in the kitchen, frying up eggs, flipping burgers, and how it made Nicholas so happy to serve. So much has changed in a few short years since he passed away. The staff, the diner, even the neighborhood. But what was Alex thinking, sinking so much money on the decor upgrade, an assault of blue and white like the Greek flag unfurled its colors all over the place, tacky art on every square inch of the walls. It's put them in a financial hole that she now has to dig them out of. Well, she's tired of being the family's workhorse or bank. Ersi counts the rest of the money and slams the cash register shut. The boisterous laughter from the cooks and their Dominican radio floats through the order window and distracts Ersi from her thoughts. She decides to open the window blinds, wobbles to the nearest booth, and kneels in the center of the seat to reach the lift cord. The booth emits a painful and muffled burp, driving her good knee deeper into the cushion. She pulls the cord and is struck by the bluest sky she's ever seen, at least in New York. This deep azure reminds her of the Aegean Sea, of the swordfish she once witnessed leaping from the waves, a streak of the same brilliant blue flashing in the sun before diving back down, of the lolaki dye used to paint the doors and window frames back in Paros. Maybe Helen, her church friend, is right. Retire, go back. What's keeping her here exactly? Alex, the diner? She scoots herself out of the booth and moves to the next one. Sally kicks the double doors and makes her entrance, carrying the package from the office in her hands. Jose is close behind her with a box of pastries the baker just dropped off. Jose, ere you replenish the sweetmeat caskets, discern what yet remains fresh. She slinks up next to him and menacingly whispers, Methinks the German chocolate cake hath become stale with the passage of time. Sure, he says. I'll just go restock these. Sally puts the box on the counter across from the drink station. I could eat. Oh, shit. Hi, it's a bee. I could eat the whole cake in one sitting. Pity no one really asks for it. Hey, Ersi, she says, and rests her elbow on the counter like a sphinx. What if we push the German chocolate cakes this week? We'll call it Chocolate Lover's Dream Cake, she says, dramatically bracketing each word in the air with her hands. Ersi knits her thin eyebrows and considers it. She likes the idea and nods in approval before pulling on another cord. Aces. Sally opens the box from the office. A plot twist is at play, she announces, and pulls a stack of plastic-wrapped white paper to-go cups out of the box. Have I been bamboozled? Usually the order is for small blue ones, like cup. Maybe it's a mix-up, Jose suggests, while rearranging the pies. Balderdash, I have personally perused the directions and the bill. 'Tis the same as before, unless someone hath gone behind my back and altered the order and neglected to appraise me thereof. Her narrow eyes scan the room and land on Jose. Jose turns to Ersi, hoping for a translation. Ersi catches Jose's glance and lobs one of her own to Sally. One that silently says, drop the act. Okay, fine. I put in our regular order and they sent us these. She holds the bag like a severed head in one hand and rifles through the package with the other. It's the same invoice as always. She glances over it again to confirm. Can we use both? Jose breaks down the baker's box. Sally assesses the tight crevice between the hot water dispenser and the coffee maker. We really have room for one of these. She picks up cup with her free hand. These new ones are bigger. We can probably charge more for them. She shrugs and holds the two options for Ersi to see. What do you think? Ersi likes the idea. They haven't changed their prices in quite some time. She awkwardly makes her way out of the last booth, with her bad knee still throbbing. She leans back on one of the banquet seats for support and studies the two options from where she stands. Personally, Jose chimes in, I like the blue ones. He approaches Sally and with an open hand asks for cup. The heat from Jose's palm warms cup's blue coating. Jose smiles with delight. I mean, it's got personality with the retro design and the funky words. He cradles cup's small frame. The other ones, I don't know, they look kind of boring. He gently sets cup down on the counter. Sally takes a turn, picking up cup, holding him into a shard of radiant sunlight. To be or not to be, she professes. As the ray of light shines down, golden flecks of stardust float and dance, descending upon cup. The stardust covers the papery blue coat and seeps through the waxy protective lining, slipping deeper into the fibers of cup. Continuing their journey, the particles travel down to his chemical structure, kissing his atoms and bringing cup to life in the daylight of the diner like never before. Ersi takes a few steps toward the counter and extends her hand. Let me see. They've been ordering and using these cups since the diner opened. Should we just make the switch? Sally asks. It's not like there's much more of these blue ones left. There was a time when they went to work and street vendors on every corner used them. Ersi brings the cup closer. She doesn't remember it having so many Greek details. She turns the cup over in her hands and remembers when the diner made its first year in profits. They toasted with cheap wine in these cups. Ersi stops when she sees the words, "We are happy to serve you." And for a moment, her breath catches in her throat as she can almost hear her brother speaking those very words. She puts the cup down. We are going to keep him. Ersi's voice is familiar to Cup. Sometimes he hears it right before he fades into a deep slumber. Fine, I'll give in to popular demand, Sally says, and places Cup on the bar back. She gathers the packages and heads to the double doors. But let me tell you something. She pivots to look at Ersi and Jose dead in the eyes and says, I would make a great Ophelia, and exits. Ersi rolls her eyes and stiffly walks back to the cash register station. The entrance door opens. Two security officers coming off their night shift enter. She greets them. They take the nearest booth. Sally comes in with menus for the gentlemen. Ersi turns on the radio and the diner is in full swing. The diner is bright, too bright, and loud, bursting with colors and noise. The sensations rattle through Cup's polyethylene core. His surroundings start to take shape and form. From the cheap paintings of Poseidon with his foamy beards on the wall, all the way to the pillowy pastel mints in the candy dish right next to the register, the diner comes into sharp focus. That's when it dawns on Cup. It's daytime, and he's awake. There are people in the diner, customers at the counter eating eggs, diners in the booths asking about the daily specials and eyeing the raspberry danishes in the dessert case. The whole place is alive with the joyful chorus of people, plates, and pancakes. The windows, they're open to a whole new universe just outside the diner. There are more people walking, hurrying, holding hands. Different sized diners make up a continuous stepladder all the way to the sky, and the sky full of clouds like crumpled napkins. A swirl of euphoria spirals through Cup so intensely he fears he might tip over into the depths below and into Radiss's clutches. But then it occurs to Cup that he's the only one awake in the entire diner. His parents, the Lipton exotic tea bags, the elderly ceramic mugs are still in their magical slumber. Even the coffee machine hinges a gentle snore. No one would believe Cup was awake during the daytime. They'd think he was ungluing at the seams. A dark figure appears directly in front of Cup. Okay. And obscures his view. He hears the figure say, "Here you go, Norman," and the sound of plate against the counter, and hears the sound of plate against the counter surface. The figure leaves, and Cup sees a person he assumes is a Norman reaching for ketchup, grabbing the bottle from its neck and yanking it away from the caddy. He pinches and screws the white cap open, turns the bottle over and slams ketchup's bottom over and over and over again. Each time the palm of the hand hits the bottle harder and harder until ketchup's red liquid gunk spews and splatters all over the eggs on the plate. The diner next to Norman plucks out an individual blue French vanilla creamer from the dish next to the napkins. He toys with her like a diner cat with a dropped roll, before viciously ripping the lid and pouring her white vital fluids into his coffee. Cup's elation evaporates as a sense of horror fills him to the brim. The sheer agony of the terror beyond the counter is enough to crumple Cup into a flat, useless disc. If only one of the crudely drawn Poseidons hanging from the walls could send a mighty wave to wash away all this grossness, that would be great. Just as Cup's prayer drifts through him, the diner door swishes open, and, by the grace of Aphrodite, the most beautiful girl walks into the diner. All the ugliness melts away like paper in the rain, and beauty once again reigns. The clanky clamor of the diner quiets down in her presence. The girl, with the coffee-colored curls and almond-shaped eyes, who wears the coat the color of the Mykonos sky, radiates with a tenderness that is as sweet as a warm chocolate-glazed donut. Cup feels a stirring within his papery, tissuey particles, that she is the one he's been waiting for, his customer. Happiness resonates through the very molecules that compose his little blue body. She's the one, sings every fiber of his being. She is the one. Thank you. Thank you. I'd also like to thank Anafra and Beyond Baroque before I leave, so thank you.
All right, one more round of applause for Atina, please. And yeah, sorry about the bee situation. We actually had to remove a beehive outside earlier today. What we weren't anticipating was a couple of them would make their way in here. Our poet in residence, the surrealist Will Alexander, likes to call Beyond Baroque a great hive for language. And I think the bees just like got jealous and like set up their own hive next door. But anyways, element of danger in writing, always. Next up, we have Andres Sanchez, who is a trans-masculine poet born in Mexico City. He migrated to the U.S. at the age of 5 and grew up in Southern California and Las Vegas, Nevada. He has been featured in open mics such as East Side Queer Stories, Olivia Open Mic, the Backdoor Reading Series, Influx Collective Reading Series, Tia Chosh's Open Mic, and many more. In October 2018, Andres was accepted in the Community Literature Initiative program and became a participant in the 6th cohort of students to publish his finished work. You can find Andres on Instagram at This Poet Travels and as Andres Sanchez on Facebook. I'll also say that I know Andres through the work he does with CLI, and he just does like really amazing work in the community as a poet and as an organizer for poets. So I'm really glad to be able to welcome him here. So please, everyone, welcome Andres Sanchez.
Hey, good evening, everybody. How's everybody doing? Awesome. Well, first, I'd like to congratulate Mahtem for her book release, and also I was part of when folks ask you for your bio, and you're like, that's probably a bio that I wrote like a couple of years back, but I was part of the ANAFRA residency program. Yes, like give it up for that, because that summer, I was going through a lot of change, and I was like, I want to apply for this program, but I'm not sure that I could do it. And I was like, glad that I did it. It was such a great experience. So I'm appreciative of that, and also thanks to all the folks that are also reading alongside all of us tonight. So I'm going to share a couple pieces with you all from my book called This Body. I'm going to start off with this piece called I Am My Roots. At first, I was from the motherland. Frijoles con queso y bolillo raised me. Corn tortillas kept me alive. I'm from where the eagle perched on nopales, green as the mountains the Aztecs called home, white as jicama con chile and limon, red as the blood of my indigenous mothers. I came from maternal abuelos raising me as their own for 2 years. From pan dulce that sweetened the days I mourned the absence of my parents. I came from el temblor del 85 that shook all the fear out of me. From my weekly shots recommended for my fragile, anemic body at 4, from my first crush on the neighbor across the street, from my life on techos and macetas hanging in my grandmother's jardín. I live custom-made baby clothes bought with my mother's work in a tortilleria for lightly used clothes given to my father by his co-workers, traded homemade sopes for cheeseburgers made the American way. Santa Ana raised me for a few years, taught me English, but my mother never let me forget my first language, so I kept the Mexican accent cemented on my tongue. Tustin became my 4th and 5th home. Here I quickly learned my differences when a white boy used the rock to split my head open. What are you? Where are you from? Became questions I could not answer, even when I felt the drips of blood from my wound. I was raised in a city translated from the meadows, Las Vegas blazing desert summers. The rays of the sun seep deep into my skin each day, browning more. Red rocks became my playground. I wore a cap and gown for the first time in my lineage, repeated again 6 years later. Destiny called. I've never dug a hole deep enough to hold my roots in place. Until now, I've only encountered malnourished soil too soft to hold them down. My 17-year-old sister helped me drive my green Ford SUV back east, near the Potomac River. Military base and Pentagon were my backyard, the Smithsonian offering free history at my fingertips. Hardly any history was mine. None of the apartments that I lived could hold enough of my sadness, so it overpoured into the streets, made it to my work desk where I embraced my passion for healthcare. I learned to travel, took myself on road trips to escape the isolation, got my first passport, planned trips, made a list of places I wanted to go, then packed my tiny car and watched it get shipped back west. I arrived in the City of Angels on March 10th, 2014, with broken heart but more hope. I learned to become a master, cap and gown now becoming a legacy, unpacked years of trauma, became my true self, learned my way around the freeways and the neighborhoods, made significant friendships. I still struggle with calling any place home, pack, unpack, repack, live out of boxes, survive with the lessons from when this journey began. I am temporary, like how my spirit lives in this body temporary. I claim no hood. Like my ancestors, I settle where I can find a warm place to sleep and enough nourishment to guide me through this passage. I am not local. I am seeds in the wind, leaving trees and flowers that eventually turn into beautiful fields near unplanned rest stops along the roads. I am of this world. I am from this earth. Thank you. All right, so I'm going to share this piece called Tattoos, Tea, and T stands for like not like the sip tea, but more like testosterone tea. Tattoos, Tea, and Hope. And it's funny because this tattoo actually that I'm describing in this piece happened right down the street at the tattoo shop, like on the main corner of Lincoln. And Yeah, so here we go. The buzzing of the needle on my skin promises a vision in color. It weaves in and out of my pores, letting the ink shape the flowers on a skull. I take deep breaths, feel the repetitive action take over my aching body, hoping that when I open my eyes, my angst will be gone. I share glances with the artist, allow her to lean over me, an intimacy only she and I share. I feel her nervous breath like anxiety spilling on my skin. I allow her to touch places that were reserved for lovers and never learned to touch my resilient body. This particular night, I am the artist, preparing the needle alone. I wipe down the vial of gender I was denied from the womb, extract my second chance to live this life. My body jerks at the thought of metal against skin. The touch of it comes with euphoric pain felt through every screaming pore. This body is learning that grace and suffering are exactly the same thing when there is only one way out of depression. I put my cap on the syringe, rest, breathe, think, hoping that when I return for it, my body won't weep. Thank you. All right, I'm going to share two more pieces with you all. The next piece is the title of my book, which is called This Body. And it's about the first time that I really came out to myself as a trans person. So I just want to give a trigger warning that it does talk about gender dysphoria. So just wanted to give that. This body. In this body given to me, I learned to move my limbs. Sometimes to the sounds of cumbias from Mexico de F, where I was born. Sometimes to the sounds of my mother's cries when father would leave to El Norte to follow the American dream. Only I know what I've lived in this body. The passing of the moons witness each limb growing into a young adult body. My skin stayed soft in this body. No facial hair growing on this body. Instead, painful breasts growing on this body. No limb between my legs attached to this body. Instead, womanhood expelled from this body. I've questioned my happiness in this body. I've prayed, I've cried because I want this body to be a masculine body. I want to be described as handsome in this body. I've dreamt of a safer place for this body that I've yet to find. I know there is something bigger than the memory of this dispossessed body. Bone and flesh are weak because of the heartbreak past lovers have caused that I don't know when I began to carry them instead of me in this body. I've learned to be loved in this body, feel what it's like to be touched, but I'm not sure what it means because I cannot weigh myself in this body. I'm ready to take back my beautiful body. I want to feel again in my body. I want to breathe love through my body. I want my body, my feminine but masculine body, wrapped up into blissful perfection. Thank you. All right, I have one more piece for y'all. So I want to leave y'all on a little bit of a different note. And of course, my phone is tripping out right now. So, it's been a long journey into the healing process of this particular part of my life. And so I want to share this piece called When Rainbows Are Born. If you can give me 1 second to find it, because I completely lost it in this. So apologies. This is what happened. I usually like to print my poems out. I ran out of ink. I ran out of all the things I needed. This is what happens when you're a poet. And yes. So let me find this piece. Here we go. Here we go. All right. When Rainbows Are Born. When you were born, water broke. spilled and washed you into the world and out of your safe place. The universe stopped for you. For a few seconds, it was only you and life becoming. Another day, the birds sang in symphony to let Mother Earth know that you arrived safely. Destiny, still undetermined, no path yet to take, you are pure, like the thermal waters warm with the fire from the core. You have not made mistakes yet. You are a river flowing, unsure of which direction you will go in or how much your riverbed will carry, but you will find ways to overflow even in the most deserted places. You will bring life in unexpected ways and through unconventional means. You were born Sunday, December 6th at 6 a.m. when you accepted your imperfections. You lie there covered in sunlight, tear ducts undeveloped, a tiny speck of feelings that cannot be contained with hush or swaddle. You haven't experienced the world, yet you lived an entire life before you let yourself be seen. You haven't cried through heartbreak. You have not known heartache, yet you were birthed from pain. Your birth marked a story of survival and surviving. You haven't the skills to uprise, yet you are a riot in your own existence. Your strengths need no discovering. They are carried in your lungs. They breathe powerfully, letting you produce thundering screams signaling you are alive. Serving as a warning about the force you will become. A hurricane like you has never touched down on land until you knew they were ready for your might. Floods will come. You must accept everything before you, even if those things are old, washed up versions of yourself wanting to return. You must not try to save them if you want to save your better self from drowning. Every second spent in anger is a waste. Every moment lived in regret, a dishonor to your life's path. You must be a dam, contain, release little by little. Remind yourself to never dry out. Always keep yourself full. You must hold your head up high, even when others try to force oil spills onto your crystal clear body. Even when they try to fill you with litter. Even when you feel their toxicity rushing rampant, even when water runs scarce, you will need to remind yourself that there will be torrential downpours, but the sun will always rise the next day, whether the clouds allow you to see it or not. Life will be a series of wet obstacle courses. There's always a chance that you will slip and fall. So remind yourself that rain also has to crash into the dirt in order for beauty to grow from the ground. Sometimes your kindness will be mistaken for weakness, so show the world what they missed. You didn't come this far to walk away from your dreams. Lastly, remind yourself that rainbows are born after each storm, when the lightning, winds, and thunder gradually fade away, and the sunlight caresses the raindrops, clearing the path for your momentous rebirth. Thank you. Thank you all. Congratulations, Mahtem, and thank you to Beyond Baroque for hosting us.
Another round of applause for everyone. Thank you. Next up, we have Jessica Abugadas, whose recent works appear in literary venues such as Guernica, the LA Review of Books, the Yale Review, and others. Her award-winning book, Strip, was published in 2020 by University of Arkansas. Please, everyone, welcome Jessica Abugadas.
Okay, hi. Wow, you can't see anything from up here, but I know that my best friend Lindsay is in the back, and thank you, Beyond Baroque, for having us. And congratulations to Mahtem. A book is an amazing accomplishment. I'm going to read one poem from my book, and then I would really love to read to this dark room some of my new work that I haven't really been reading, so this is a great chance to try it out. And yeah, these poems are like, so know what you're in for. They're like 70% like love poem, and like, so 2 parts love poem, 1 part existential dread. All my life's been a costume party. The night was like a planet turning on its axis, tides shifting in some seamless, unnoticeable way. So long as I have to go on with this, existing, I might as well be irresistible. So buzzing, I took him, like a small cactus fruit, into my mouth. I can be this whole tequila bar, or that blonde over there in a cropped t-shirt shooting stardust through the gap in her teeth. There she is, kissing her lady's midnight hair. And there in the crowd, a man is leaning in and saying something no one will remember. Somewhere in the mob, I can hear my will to live, saying very carefully, really, you had a great time, but this party's almost over. On to the new. On aesthetic. I'm exhausted from doing nothing on the internet again. You have a new girlfriend and the world knows. You want me to buy your organic skincare. You used me when I was in love with you. Highland Park is filled with beautiful consumers, consuming. I used to walk there with my love, the person I live with in the real world, consuming in the name of aesthetic, which we have named our purpose. I love in pursuit of my interest. I am American. Hear me Rorschach. I'll describe how things look to me, and my words will fall in a convincing order. I'll choose the best ones. Words to sell. Please buy my words. Microplane, pathos, succulent in a ceramic mug, Phoebus 21 grain grinder. Even my sundries are beautiful. Litter of leaves. When it's beautiful here, then all the world is beautiful. A sequence in a dream. I break into an apartment to steal a can of Coke. In the elevator, a woman joins me, holding a crate of plants. She asks how it went. It's her birthday, so I say, "Happy birthday." "Thanks," she says. "I got all these plants." A wooden car on the ground floor. I stand on the wooden bumper, face the driver through the windshield. Now we're looking at each other. Now you will have to answer to me. Happy birthday. Before my life with you, I had my life without you. My life before, the revolting plastic bag of life cultures to make the kombucha that you say is immunity building. Feral and stinging, you bend me over the dining table. I wish all our friends the kind of romance that has love letters. Last year, you didn't hang out with me much at your birthday party. However, you did make fuck me eyes at me from across the backyard. Now I live in your house. You chop the Thai chilies into spicy dust. You kiss my foot when it hangs off the bed. My throat is your area of specialty. We like to fight in parking structures. I am made to forgive you for liking hiking, being from Chicago, the radical cold, great pleasure and great pain. I do, but sometimes recall times I did not love you. Our last fight was about environmental activism. You're more into the free and I'm more into the love. It's polite to say excuse me, but I like to shove past the world. We know love doesn't end where another begins. I want to be with a woman you've been with, to know you even in that way. And when I find myself crying behind the wheel, afraid I'm repeating my mother's life, and when my mind circles like a fly, and I lie awake wounding myself with words no one dares to utter, how are you certain of me? Your need is intimidating. Darling, I'm working on myself. I won't hold you hostage in a love poem. I won't spare you the interpretation of my gaze. I'll stay a stranger in some way. I'll find a way. I think I'm going to read like 3 more. Years ago, I did a writing program here at Beyond Baroque at a program called RAWI, the Radius of Arab American Writers. And it was a screenwriting program. And I did it with my ex-boyfriend. And so I feel like some of these poems and this location is haunted last time I was up here. So I'm going to go ahead and summon his spirit. He's still living with this poem. Anarchy. He waves his pointer finger at me, howling about Bakunin as I devour mohinga and tea leaf salad. At the Burmese restaurant on Sunset, late on a Wednesday night, he wants to talk about anarchy. Not the SLC punk kind, but the pleased with itself grad student Noam Chomsky kind. It's like you said when you were yelling at that cop apologist on Gretchen's roof, he tells me. Yes, I say. And if machines replace labor, we'll have pleasure. Who's concerned about the end of labor anyway? The end of labor is a party, his hand sliding off my leggings by light of salt lamp. Does hedonism set me apart? I'm no artist. I want to fuck his face off later for saying that, and I do. I won't lie down and play dead, an all-white yoga class gathered to release tension. Tension's good. I'm angry. Every minute of every day, the ordinary treachery of art school in a business park. Oh, how I wanted to learn great books. I'm not alone. Everyone I've loved owes money to something that governs. They're indemnified with a banquet of leather shoes. My darling, with a face like a Chekhov play, says, "What a lucrative formula." And later, as fermented hot sauce churns in my stomach, rests his face on my womb in the dark. His beard of black curls, my unbalanced gut, an idea of finance, somewhere in the room, looming. Westerly Waverly. Western Union wire to a widow in Beirut, the sister of a grandfather I never met. I drive my Audi down Sunset Boulevard, which is how I do my best thinking. Money makes me miserable, and I want more misery. Should I go and become someone's so I can be properly corrected? The discipline of a diplomat cleaning another's mess. Desire begets a wish for permanence, an agreement that passion ends. At least when it was a lawn of weeds, I could lay in it. Why did I give up my beautiful room? I was lonely in it. Anyone can wear a white dress. Anyone can be the clown at her own party, parting with the self to be a servant, to please a dwindling diaspora across continents. They want me exhausted with a family. They want me celibate like a monk. Last night, as I cried myself to sleep on the eve of my 30th birthday, there I go out of your arms and into a bed with a nice flat pillow and another girl's period stain. Nobody's dying in the med spa. Marriage is a youthful mistake, I hear in my mother's voice. I've served for a decade at the pleasure of angry men. My daddy was a drifter, so I'm cursed to change course. I want my freedom. I send the money. And this will be my last poem. And then I'm excited to hear what we all came here to hear. January. We may be in a simulation, but love exists. It was us then, arguing in the parked car in front of the New Year's Eve party. It still wrecks me to drive past your exit, through that wilderness that held us. The apartment with splintery floors where I got high in the bathtub, drowned some books that way. Poetry is mortifying, so American. Don't be precious, pay us. But there are perfect, clear days, traversing some freeway that you occur to me whole, demanding to be felt. When I was lit by stage light, I couldn't see you, but I knew you. Your wet coat 2 winters ago, all of it, the movies we watched, the gesture of your hand while talking at the window ledge, and how, in secret, at your most devastated, you pray to Abraham's God. To be alive is negotiable. I'll grow old, become sentimental. People, that's all there is. The memory of what we did, how we felt with them. We didn't end. We just stopped.
Thanks, God. We got this, everyone. Thank you, Jessica. That was great. And now it is my great pleasure to welcome Mahtem Shiferraw, who is a writer and visual artist from Ethiopia and Eritrea. Her work has been published in various literary magazines, including Callaloo, Prairie Schooner, and many others. She's the author of 3 full-length poetry collections, Fuchsia, which won the Sillerman First Book Prize for African Poets, Your Body is War, and most recently, Nomenclatures of Invisibility. She is also the author of the chapbook collection Behind Walls and Glass. She has served as an editor, curator, or advisor for different literary journals, including Atlas and Alice, The Bleeding Lion, The Hunger Mountain, and more. And as you have heard, she is the founder and executive director of Anafra Arts, a nonprofit organization that advocates for writers and artists of color. She is a Pushcart Prize nominee, and her work has been anthologized widely. As of 2020, she's also served on the editorial board of World Literature Today, where she curated the Black Voices series and the New African Voices portfolio. She holds an MFA from Vermont College. Please everyone welcome Mahtem Shiferraw.
Oh my God. Hello, darkness. You were not kidding. Okay, so I'm just gonna point to the darkness. Thank you all for coming. I love gathering. I don't particularly love reading because it makes me nervous, but I love gathering in the name of poetry because I think it's always a chance, it's a legitimate way to just be weird and geek out. So thank you for being weird and geeking out with us. I am particularly excited to read here at Beyond Baroque. Thank you so much for the staff for making this happen, and also for Gail for being here. I don't know where you are. Gail's one of my favorite people and a poet's poet, and the first person to connect me with Beyond Baroque, and my greatest poetry teacher. So thank you, Gail. And thank you for my family, some of whom are here, some of whom are watching children, and some are online, and for my friends and supporters who keep showing up. So thank you. That's a question in there. Before I begin, so I'm going to read, poems from the new book so you can buy it. And they do have it here. Thank you for having it here. And then I'll read a couple new poems that will sort of tie us back with the conversation. But so if you don't know, the book is written mostly in a collective we. And this book has a lot of stories, all of the stories that were sort of done in a way of gathering, an act of collecting our stories and our histories. So tonight, by reading this book, which is difficult for me to read out loud in front of people, I am hoping to share the responsibility with you. So once I read these poems out loud, they're no longer mine. And these ancestors will be your ancestors. And this responsibility will be our collective responsibility to bear. So they will no longer be invisible. So if you thought you were coming just for poetry, surprise. surprise. And I think that's all I'll say. And this lastly, I also want to give a shout out to my amazing sister who did the cover for this. She's not here tonight, but this blue that you see here has been haunting my dreams, and so she responded to that. So thank you, Cookie. And thank you for my mom, who's actually here. Thank you, Mama and Elisa. I have a long list of people to thank, so okay. I'll start with the title poem, and there's several of the title poems, and this book has a different limbs, so you'll see them come throughout. Nomenclatures of Invisibility. My ancestors are made with water, blue on the sides and green down the spine. When we travel, we lose brothers at sea and do not stop to grieve. Our mothers burn with a fire that does not let them be. They whisper our names, nomenclatures of invisibility. Honey-dewed faces, eyes sewn shut. How to tell them the sorrow that splits us in half, the longing for a land not our own, the constant moving and shifting of things within, without. Which words describe the clenching in our stomachs, the fear lodged deeply into our bones, churning us from within? and the loss that follows us everywhere, behind mountains, past oceans, into the heads of trees. How to swallow a tongue that speaks with too many accents. When white faces sprout, we are told to set ourselves ablaze. And this smell of smoke we know, water or fire or both, because we have drowned many at a time and left our bodies burning, or swollen or bleeding and purple. This kind of language we know, naming new things into our invisibility, and this we too call home. You're very kind, but you don't need to clap between. This is Nomenclatures too. Those which we are given in the brink of sorrow or joy or both. Those marked on our foreheads the curse of a generation or more. Mark on our abdomens birthmarks like numbers, aligning us with a history we seem to forget. Those we carry within years later, many lands apart, having something rotten from the inside out, our bodies finally drooping with the weight of the firmament. Those we carve new and milky, pasty on our foreign tongues, monosyllabic odd things, reminding us of everywhere, of nowhere. Those we receive or hear and not descend to, shaping themselves from our hair, the silhouettes of our bodies, the color of our skin, the foreignness of our mouths. And those filled with grief and strife, the names of our fathers and foremothers, beaming through centuries across black seas into new lands, carrying us throughout, containing us, containing this, all of it, all our names and naming, calling us with something filled with grim love. I usually read this poem at every chance I get, because it's one of the first ones that showed up, and it's the first time I think that I learned to be summoned by poems. The silences. Ancestor mothers approach slowly. There are silences I have assumed in my body. They speak a language I have learned to hide deep in my bones. They call me daughter, but I am also a mother. In this, we all interchange dark blues and blue blacks, lustrous greens adorning our kinks. Each of them hands me something to misremember. A seed, the beginning of a wall, a black dress, a child, a white netala. See me afterwards. My head is shaved, body thin cracking, limbs long and large. I open my mouth and hiss in a language I do not recognize. They wash my mouth with kakti and let me drink their milk. They call me daughter again, and again I say, I am a mother, but do not know how to stop. They feed this flesh honey and kita and warm milk. They sew my wounds and cover my scars with palm leaves. They call me Ade Ababa, and I am small and stubborn and yellow green all over. How are we doing? Okay. This one I don't think I've read out loud. When I first migrated in the US, I used to write letters to my friends and family and beloveds, and some of them were mailed out, and then I found years later a lot of them that were not mailed. So I excerpted this from that. It's called Letters from America. And the way it's written, there are words that were deducted from it, so it's sort of a form of erasure, but not really. So I'll read it in silences, and then we'll do a fun exercise if we have time. letters from America. 1. Dear, these days I hide. I cannot, as I did before. What must you be thinking of me? This is not the first time but perhaps it might be the last. I am told to stay strong, but when speak, it's as if I am an infant with no sorrow to muster. I, too, though not always, sometimes I wake up with a stuck on my chest, and I can't. Sometimes I think you're not, but that's thinking. Sometimes I see you in my, or is it my, but then you. Must you, this fleeting. 2. Dear, I read about you the other day on, or was it? I can't recall. I can't recall much these days, though I remember the way you always. What were we thinking then? The officer who took my has your same dimples, and I stared and stared until they, slowly, I don't anymore. 3. Dear, what, when, and. Dear, I have not forgotten about you. I am just, and you knew this, didn't you? We're getting weird, huh? It's fine. I'll bring it back. Don't worry. Okay. This one is a longish poem, so I'm gonna read excerpts. It's called Water Ancestors, and it's sort of what brought this whole collection together. And this is sort of lamentations, ruminations that I wrote and what grounded the entire collection. And it was so much that I couldn't contain in one poem that I think I ended up writing a sort of craft talk on water that nobody really understood. Maybe Athena, you did, I don't know. So I'll read excerpts and then I'll have a couple final poems. Water Ancestors. Lately, I think a lot about my water ancestors, ancestor mothers, ancestor fathers, ancestor children. Perhaps it is because they have come back to see me, one or many at a time, carrying on their shoulders the crisp blue waters of Abai. This I feel inside me, as if my blood is in fact blue-green. I know it is. I, at my best, am traveled water. I have no resting place. The lands I go to are all different, and in them, I too become someone else, sometimes unrecognizable, but at times despairingly assimilated. And as an immigrant, I find myself thinking about shifting and moving, and the breaking that occurs, both visible and invisible. With this, something breaks open too, the shifting of the self into another, the moving of the self into many, the self as no one, the self as new, impassable. I, like many, tell myself this. There's nothing breaking here, nothing bleeding, nothing festering to see. How ordinary of me to reassure myself in such a complacent way. Instead, I should be saying, Here in this body, someone died. Perhaps not entirely, but bits and pieces left here and there. The further away from home, the more the breaking. When I am asked, where is home? I say, which one? The one that gave birth to me and kicked me out multiple times. The one that calls me by a name I do not recognize. The one that claimed my tongue before I knew its marred history. Or the one that follows me everywhere I go, small demon on my back, a reminder incised deeply into my bones. These and more, home and yet not. 2. I carried them with me wherever I go. This ancestor was promised in marriage when she was 3 years old. This one who ached to learn how to read and write but never did. This who found herself among white men and birthed children with brown skin and blue eyes. This who married a woman that refused to give him children. This one who was a warrior king, last breath filled with smoke of a flying bullet. This elegance was so fin before it was so, or far beyond, even further, this one who traveled many seas to collect the word of God. These and more I carry on my back, and my body flattens itself. So much history. So little to unravel it with. The dreams of my father consume me. My mother's too are well preserved, small pockets folded within my skin. 3. I dream of home and never live to see it. The lands I inhabit I filled with bones, mine, my ancestors, and my sons. When I find myself in water, the dread that devours me is not mine, but perhaps yours, O ancestor brother, and the feeling of having crossed many seas before is not new either. I come to Los Angeles and find the devil waiting on my doorstep, and beneath the horizon, all is old and foreign to me. My tongue betrays me many, many times. It calls me by a name, by another. It changes its curls and whirls to be released from its original accents. These languages too all coalesce into chaos, blue or black or bleeding burgundy. There are shadows following me everywhere I go. I walk down the street and hear myself saying, hello, how are you? Have a good day. Where does one go to have a good day? 4. The cities too are glasslands of bones and dust. Here I find bits of others, a bit of Asmara, a bit of Rome, a bit of Addis Ababa, a bit of San Francisco, pieces of me for me to mend. And when strangers ask, where are you from? I say hesitantly, nowhere, nowhere. Now the happy poems. Because I have a sister who always insists on happy poems. Lilta. This one was inspired by David Hammond's work, who's a conceptual artist. And if you don't know him, I recommend, especially if you're a writer, it feeds a lot. So I just have a couple of poems. But these one, Abandon Me Here, after David Hammond's. I have come to many doors before, knocked them wide open, thought they were mine to conquer, these portals who have kept me and people like me on the outside, on the outskirts of cities and walls, thinking us to be strangers. And everywhere we went, we wore the scent like an armor, inflecting our words unnecessarily, and when they asked where we were from, we always said nowhere, nowhere. Can't you see it in our eyes? These fires have left us burning, These fires have left us burning, left us with nothing, turned us into beggars, stripped away our dignity slowly and then quickly. Who fears death like this, like it belonged to us in new ways, as if it would suddenly materialize itself, not recognizing us from anywhere, thinking us to be, again, strangers, strangers, strangers? Who fears both water and fire, because they will come at the same time, unburdened of the scabs they've left behind? And this kind of breathing requires both burning and buoyance, and so we feed ourselves small things, swallow them whole, remember each feeding as if it was sacred, say a prayer or two or hundreds more, and each time new fires are sent our way, adorned and tessellated, mirages among such dry lands, shaping and reshaping themselves into many things, now walls, now portals, now small windows staring into the abyss of things. And here's where I wish to unburden myself. Here's where I come to keep us safe. Here's where you will find me collecting the stories, collecting the histories. And the breathing I do is heavy with centuries of heaving and heaving, of learning and unlearning. And so I sew each wound on us and the future us, and need not say out loud or in small whispers, here, 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 leave, abandon me. Last poem. I guess it's not happy, but it's... Sorry. You know, the poetry does what the poetry does, so I'm not in control here. I mean, it may seem like it, but it's really not. But it's positive, I promise. This is called Prayer of the Drowning. I'm sorry. Okay. Prayer of the Drowning. Dear God, I have prayed this prayer before, but somehow can't recall the words. I have come so far, so strong, and so alone. Where do I go from here? Where does one go after being taken to slaughter? Where did you place my father, my Abraham, who leapt to your word but forgot my beating heart? Let there be darkness, and let there be a glimmer of light in the darkness, and let us all coalesce in one single being. Let us be born. Let us grow slowly, hands holding us head first, dust, mud, loam, seedling. Cut our weeds, our second and fourth limbs, parts of our organs, we breathe fire anyway. Take this crown, give us thorns and leaves and grace. Take this womanhood and give me war and solitude. Feed me honey and palm leaves. Send me to desert oceans where storms of locusts have come to rest. Adorn me with cacti and dates. Water was once my nature, my light, my only firmament. Dear God, I pray for this. River water in my belly, a blue mantle on my body. Tell my loves that I have loved them before I knew it was so, before everything. Tell these cities who tried to swallow me, I have resurfaced triumphant. I may have drowned, but I am made of water, and so I already reek of drowning and drowning. Tell the men I have learned not to be silenced. Tell them there are roars and roars of us coming their way, and we are just getting started. Thank you so much.
Please, 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 more applause for Mahtem. Thank you, Mahtem. That was wonderful. Thank you to all the readers as well. Thank you all for coming. And I just want to say we do have Mahtem's book for sale in the bookstore. We have books from all of our readers. Please buy them. Please stick around, have some drinks, have a little foods, hang out. Thank you all so much for coming. Have a good night.